The 2024-2025 Duke basketball team has a lot of expectations, and a lot of those expectations are based off of the freshman class that's coming in, headlined by Cooper Flagg and Kaman Malawak. However, I think that Tyrese Proctor, the junior guard, is going to be the X factor for the Blue Devils this year. And the reason for that is twofold. Number one, Duke needs guard play and they need experienced guard play this year. After losing Jeremy Roach to the transfer portal, Tyrese Proctor is the most experienced Duke player on the roster. And as a point guard, he will be expected to be the leader of this team. And that puts Proctor in a position where he has to be a lot more consistent than he has been his first 2 years at Duke. Now, I know he came to Duke a year early, right? He reclassified up and started his college career earlier. He's basically the same age as Caleb Foster. So that goes to tell you that, he could be a sophomore at this point, but he is a junior and he has 2 years of college experience. And I think, he did improve slightly, I would say, around the margins from his freshman year to his sophomore year. He got a little bit more efficient from the field overall. He got a little bit better as a defender and a passer. But overall, there wasn't a leap, right, that I think a lot of people were hoping and maybe expecting after the way he finished his freshman year. And to me, to kind of summarize the Tyrese Proctor experience so far in his 2 years, I think there's 3 games that kind of stick out. The first is the Kansas game his freshman year in the Champions Classic, where the team started off not so great and he started off pretty poorly, and the first half did not go well. But the second half, even though Duke lost, Tyrese Proctor showed a ton of promise. He had several really tough shots and showed an ability to create his own shot off the dribble, get teammates involved, and even though, again, Duke lost that game to Kansas, there's a lot of positives that could be taken from that game, and, there's a lot of hope for the rest of the season. And while it wasn't, a straight path up from there with Proctor, he did finish the year really well. He had a great game in a tough game against Tennessee, and there's a lot of positives for him going into his sophomore year. And his sophomore year started off kind of so-so, right? He wasn't aggressive, I think is the best word to use. He was passing the ball early in the season, getting some assists, especially in those early games, but wasn't aggressive, looking for his own shot. And then a minute into the game against Georgia Tech, he gets hurt. And then he ends up getting like a concussion or a head injury as well in the middle of the year. So there was 2 times he misses game action. Then he's kind of starting, coming off the bench. To kind of understand why it wasn't a big leap forward, because it wasn't a fluid year for Proctor. And then you get to the end of the year, where I think those next 2 games kind of come to top of mind for me, where Duke plays Houston in the Sweet 16, and Tyrese Proctor has a great game. Stats-wise, they may not necessarily jump out to you, but I think, you look at his impact on that game. Defensively, he did a great job on LJ Cryer. And he hit a number of important shots in that game. So while he only finished with 9 points and 4 assists, he did have 3 steals. It's not anything that's going to jump out at you, but I thought he had a tremendous impact on that game against Houston with his defense and just his ability to kind of settle the team down. And then, unfortunately, the game against NC State was kind of the opposite, where his defense wasn't great and he didn't score at all. He was 0 for 9 from the field, and it was just a really bad game for Tyrese Proctor. And I think it's unfortunate because he had built some good momentum heading into, the close of the season, but he did not play well really in all three games against NC State, but especially the two that Duke lost. And so going into this season, the question for me is, can Tyrese Proctor find consistency? I'm not necessarily expecting him to, go from a 10-point, 3-4 assist guy to a 18.6 assist guy. But what I am hoping for is that we can get a consistent Tyrese Proctor who maybe averages 12 points, 5 assists, but his defense is always really good. You know what you're getting from game to game, and he just helps the team find its rhythm, especially as in the early part of the season as Duke takes on some tough competition with Kentucky and Arizona and Kansas. They're going to need a veteran player to kind of calm them down when the games get tough, and that's going to be Proctor's role early in the season. So as far as I'm concerned, Tyrese Proctor, especially in the early part of the season, is the X factor for Duke. So please like this video, subscribe to the channel for great Duke basketball content, and tell a friend. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.